Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are joining us from. We are here today with Nathan Neal from LaunchUX. Hey, Nathan, how's your day going, buddy?
Hey, it's going good. It's afternoon over here.
Yep, well, it just officially turned afternoon here as well. But I think you and I are in the same time zone, right?
I think we are. I think you're just a little bit further south and a little
Yep,
bit sunnier territory.
Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, right?
Chambersburg, Pennsylvania is where we're at. Yep.
All right, all right. Well, I'm in Columbia, South Carolina, outside of Columbia in a little suburb called Blythewood, but it's basically Columbia. So
hmm
we're at a cool 60 degrees today. The sun is shining, but it's been nasty for the past several days. We've had some nasty weather, but it is beautiful out today. How about you? What's the weather like?
Just wind, some crazy wind over here. I
All
think we
right.
got spring blowing in.
I think
I
so. It
hope
won't be
so.
long. Now, I want to ask you a question. Up north where you are, do they have pollen like we deal with here in South Carolina?
Oh yeah, we got some bad pollen. I'm allergic myself, so
Okay.
it gets pretty rough. And in the when you get to the peak of spring, it's not unusual to go out to your car, and if it's like black paint and you rub your fingers across, you can see it on your fingers. So yeah, we certainly have pollen.
Yeah, well, my wife's got a black car as well, and we walk out every morning and it's just yellow. So
That's
we're
yep.
keeping the car washes in business.
I certainly am. Black cars sure look nice, but they got to be clean.
That's right. That's right. Well, Nathan, I think we are here today to talk about how MSPs can maximize their website and SEO potential.
hmm Yeah, absolutely. And kind of what the direction I wanted to take this call today, and what you mentioned is, I've looked at a lot of websites from members in the IT business owners group over the last year. On occasion, I'll have a free evening. I'll be like, hey, drop in your website. Let me take a look at it. And from that, I've kind of put a couple different generalities together that I've kind of seen in common. And I'm going to provide some actionable tips on how MSPs can improve their presence and improve their lead generation. And these are all things they can do on their own.
Yeah, I've seen you posting that several times, and I'm like, wow, that is super nice to offer free suggestions to MSPs to help them improve their website and their online presence. So I'd love to hear
It's
what
nice.
you've learned.
I like to provide like the different feedback and kind of help people out. So it's for me, it's not really even like a job of sorts. It's just something I like to do. But the main thing that I find across the board in general is content seems to be the main problem. And this could come in a couple of varieties. I see some websites that don't have enough content, and we'll talk about that. And I see some websites that may use a third party, may use an SEO service that runs through some sort of an aggregate for blog posts. And all these things create a lot of problems. So, first and foremost, MSPs need to differentiate themselves a little bit because when we
Okay.
look at all these sites together, there's really nothing that differentiates, by and large, one MSP over another. So you got to kind of get them in the door to talk to them to sell yourself to really differentiate your company. And what I think MSPs should be doing is tailoring the content on their website more so to have their own personal voice, their brand, their story, to convey that message of who they are and what makes them different on their website, and not just through one sentence. I'm talking about putting together a good 1,000 to 1,500 words to have some good rich content, and that should be on every page.
And don't use Chat GPT.
You could use ChatGPT to a certain extent, actually. Um, I don't like ChatGPT being used solely just ChatGPT. Um, I look at ChatGPT as a very helpful calculator.
Okay,
So an MSP owner could, if they're having a hard time articulating what they do, and I see that quite frequently. I'll look on their websites, and if I hadn't had technology background, I would quite frankly have no idea what the MSP does, right? Unless I
sure.
absolutely am looking for them and am switching from another MSP. there's a whole lot of people that don't have MSPs that don't know what they're looking for, right? And so
Absolutely.
it's reaching those people. But you could totally use ChatGPT, feed it information about your background, feed it information about your packages and different things to have it kind of put out some templated text. And then you can take that outline basically, and then you can form your own content that's not AI generated. So, to your point, AI actually could be used, and I think it could be helpful for MSPs that are really struggling on how to get the explanation right of what the service offering is.
Okay. Well, let's go back and talk about one thing you mentioned, the MSP term, and how a lot of people who are not in the technology industry, they don't know what an MSP is. So, perhaps the website should list ITSP, IT service provider,
Mhm.
because I think the word IT rings more of a bell than an MSP to potential clients.
The trick is that IT also is the word it. So as a
Okay.
keyword, that creates unique challenges that are for this segment of the industry in particular, because our keyword is technically it,
Yeah.
which creates some challenges. So things that I look for, and what any MSPs listening to this could look for, if they're using different SEO tools to kind of collect data, is what are users searching for? And it might be outsourced IT, it might be um, technology help desk, or any sort of a lot of different words. By and large, I'm thinking that depending on the MSP, a lot of people are probably looking to outsource their IT work, and those are the words they know because they know that if they're going to outsource printing, they know what that means. If they're going to
Sure.
outsource their call center, they know what that means. Hiring an MSP, that could mean a lot of different things.
Yep. No, that's a very good point. Just the term MSP, it means something to all MSPs, but it doesn't mean a whole lot to the customers.
I mean, could it in theory be okay to say that an accountant is a managed services provider? They're managing your accounting
Yeah,
services. So that's kind of where that word gets into issues. So, a lot of MSPs, are like, hey, I have a website, but I have no expectation of getting leads from it. And when I think these are the reasons why there's no expectation of getting leads from it, because the targeting's wrong.
sure.
And these are words that you and I know, and they're words that we all know in the group, but they're not words that the consumer is searching for. So that's something really to kind of look into as you're formulating your content. Hey, I use these words, but the people looking for me are probably not using these words.
I gotcha. Very good, very good. Well, Nathan, how often should an MSP be updating their websites or an IT service provider?
So I really feel there's a lot of power in a good blog content, and this is definitely where I want to recommend everybody to shy away from using ChatGPT. And I can tell within a few minutes of or seconds of looking at a blog if it is ChatGPT. And it basically comes down to the format and the structure. So if you're just providing it a prompt to say, "Hey, provide me a blog on, why you should do Windows updates," that's not going to be useful content, right? And that's not going to get you featured as high. What you could do is you could ask ChatGPT to provide you with research, verify the research, because it does say in the print below ChatGPT that the information might be inaccurate. So again, you could use it as a data gathering tool, um, to then turn around full circle and then have that be useful content, if that makes sense. So you're using
Sure, sure.
ChatGPT basically to form an outline for you, to write good content. I would recommend putting out one good piece of blog content per month. And when I say good piece of blog content, at least 1,000 words. 1,500 would be better. Realize that people are probably not going to read it, but Google's going to look at it, and how you format that blog and how you put in the headings, that's going to make a difference in how customers find you.
So I will tell you, I haven't used it in relation to a website and content and a blog, but one of the ways that, excuse me, one of the ways that I use Chat GPT, well, I don't really tell it to create content for me. The
Hmm.
most thing that I use Chat GPT for is when I will type an email out and I'll get the
Mhm.
email ready exactly like I want it. I'll come up with all the thoughts, but then I'll think, how can I make this sound better? So I'll throw it in
Right.
Chat GPT and say, rewrite this email.
Yeah, and I think I think that's perfectly fine because again, you created the original content. You're
Right.
using its language model to enhance your content.
Make it
Um,
sound better.
and I think there's differences, but when we just put it into a box of, oh, you use ChatGPT, it becomes a little bit more open to interpretation. Another helpful tip is Grammarly, even the free version. If you run it through ChatGPT, it's not a perfect language model. Um,
Hmm.
I always recommend people that if you're gonna pull some content from ChatGPT, paste it into Grammarly or use the Grammarly app and see if it has recommendations on sentence structure. So that's something
Ah,
we don't think about. Google cares about how well your blog content reads. So
okay.
again, it's another hack to further enhance what you're already doing while minimizing the overall amount of work you have to do.
And is Grammarly free?
Yeah, they have a free plan. I have a paid plan, but I don't think it's
Okay.
very much. But yeah,
All right.
they have a free plan, and hey, I recommend that for emails, even like outside of websites, just to have the Grammarly extension on your email. Um, Small grammar mistakes, and hey, I make them still. Um, it could turn off a potential customer, so you want to make sure you're articulating that well.
Well, I will definitely give Grammarly a try, but I got to tell you, we use Office 365 and built into Office 365, it lets me know a lot. Like I'll say all of, and it'll say take off the of, just say
Oh,
all. I mean, it does kind of those things a little bit for me. So I've been pretty impressed with that alone, but
at the very
it
least, no
probably
matter what solution you use some sort of grammar or
checking.
spell check. How about we use
Right.
that?
Yeah, 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 absolutely. But I am going to check out Grammarly. I've heard a lot of good things about Grammarly. I've just never used it.
It
So,
integrates into a lot of different applications. So
okay.
let me know how it works for you within
Yeah,
side of 365. I mostly use Google Docs for a lot of my stuff. It integrates in with that well. And same when people send me content over for editing it for internal purposes.
nice,
The
nice.
other thing I wanted to talk about how MSPs can improve their search presence, and this is actually a really easy one, is from the post I made on the group. I found out that, probably about 9 out of 10 websites um, aren't hitting Google's core web vitals. Okay. And
Oh,
that's technical. And essentially, there's a couple things they look at. Are there scripts running in the background that's making the website display text slower?
okay.
How long does it take for the page layout to displayed? How long does it take for the content to shift? Like, there's a whole lot of different things that happen. Um, Hopefully in a matter of milliseconds. But for some websites I visited, it would take 5 or 6 seconds to load, which is a huge problem. One, users aren't going to wait that long in general. They're just going to hit the back button and click on the next guy. And then two, you could have the best SEO content in the world. You could be spending thousands of dollars a month on SEO services and miss your Google Web Vitals, and it'd be really for nothing. So that's
Wow.
something a lot of people don't realize.
So it's a key component.
It is. And so this is a technical component that a lot of SEO people miss. And I don't want to say that they necessarily miss it because most of them are selling content rather than more of a technical service. Um, with leveraging caching, deferring how JavaScript loads, and making different changes to that, you could take a Google PageSpeed Insight score, for example. We just did a migration, and they were scoring about 50. Okay, and this is out of 100. Um, we made some changes, and we used a caching tool that we use for our server, and we were able to get them up to a 90%. And that was just a
Wow.
matter of switching web hosts. Um, Again, I promised actionable items. So what I would recommend is if you're an MSP and you have a website that's using like Elementor or Divi, I have found that WP Rocket tends to work very, very well. You have to configure it properly, of course, but I found that tool to be very clean and very efficient at what it does. Um, Another one also worth recommending would be W3 Cache. That's another WordPress plugin as well.
Okay.
Um, there's a lot of different content management systems out there, platforms and websites and things, but Those two plugins, if you're using WordPress, which most of the sites I've reviewed were, um, those would really help you increase your scores. Take your time though and read through the documentation if you're going to do it. You could accidentally choose the wrong action for JavaScript and break something.
I
You
gotcha.
know what I mean? You might delay it a little bit too long. So it's a little bit of a balancing act. But if you can get that right, and employ, just kind of a minimal content strategy like we're talking about, putting out one piece of blog content a month and making sure your pages have rich content. If you combine those things, then you've really got a good foundation for success.
Nice. Nice.
So that's
And
kind of why it's interesting. If you combine those two different items, a good content strategy, but also make sure that your technical aspects work well. Google cares if it works well on mobile, it cares what the layout looks like, it cares what the user experience is, LaunchUX, that's where we put our UX. Um, so if you fit that and you provide useful content, you're doing the right things.
hey, I want to ask you another question in relation to something I heard. I don't think you told me this, but I think I picked it up from a web designer along the way, and I'm just curious on your thoughts on it. They said that any image that you have on your site needs to have an alt image title for SEO
Mhm.
purposes.
Yeah, so it should definitely have alt attributes,
Okay.
and that's important for SEO, but that's also important for ADA compliance. So
Okay.
the alt attribute is an alternative text. So if the image doesn't load, that's the text that it provides to the browser, so that it knows what that's an image of. So if it's your logo, the alt value would be, logo, or if you're describing an image. Um, but more than just SEO, that also matters for ADA compliance, and that's becoming more important in states like Colorado and California. So if you're in those states, it might be more than just an SEO thing for you.
Okay. Okay. For from the disability side, for
Mhm.
people accessing your site so that they may not be able to see the image, but their browser or interpretation that the browser reads would say, hey, this is, and it would actually spell it out for them.
Yeah. And then
Okay.
it also explains to Google what the picture is of. So, I mean, and they're getting their AI and their reverse image search, but again, it's a best practice.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad I asked you that. That solidifies what I was told.
Hmm. Yep, no,
Awesome.
that's absolutely true. And also with your site headings, I see a lot of websites when I do my review and they'll have multiple H1s, and that's not as big of a deal anymore. Um, used to only want to have one H1. But what I like to see when you're looking through your headers is a structure. So, we have a larger header up here. And when I say header, I'm not saying just make the text bigger and bolder. I'm saying make it a heading one
Okay.
tag. If you're familiar with HTML, um, then have some H2s and then some H3s and build it into a hierarchy. Think of it like a newspaper, right? So you get the newspaper, and you might not read the entire story in the newspaper, but you're going to skim the headlines, right? Those
Sure.
headers. And I like to kind of say that Google kind of does the same thing. And so in those headings are where you want to have your really valuable keywords, but you don't want to stuff keywords in there. You do want to describe the content that's coming. So, um, a
Very
little bit
nice.
of a mathematical kind of algorithm to determining what text makes the best header, but it's
Well,
all really interesting stuff. But building out the structure though is by and large the first step.
awesome. Well, if that's all the actionable content, I wanted to bring up one thing I heard. Tell me about the Netty Award that LaunchUX just won.
Sure. So we just won a Netty. And for those that don't know, the Netty Awards, they give out awards to service providers. I think they have like 60 categories or so that they give out, and this is a national award. So we just won the award for Best SEO Agency on
Nice.
Netty. And we got that for a project we did for a garage door company. They have three different locations, but they've also acquired three different garage door companies since we've worked with their SEO. Started with them about 6 years ago. And we also, this didn't make the news article because I think I sent you the Business Insider link where we were mentioned by Nettie. But we also got a finalist award for work we did for another large manufacturer for their door website. We did a headless design. And you might be unfamiliar with this, but that's basically where we separate the design from WordPress. So we
Okay.
still use WordPress for them to make their blog content, but their pages are all hard coded. Um, little bit more expensive to do that, but the load times are significantly improved because there's
Okay.
no builder, there's no elements. It's just here's the HTML for the browser to display, and it's nearly instant. So that was a very, very neat project too. I was surprised that we had actually, won as a whole. I was expecting to be a finalist, but that was a pretty big deal for us,
Well,
especially to be named
congrats.
one of eight in the article that they published out there. So
Very nice.
that
Well,
that was really cool.
you've got a good team taking care of all your clients, and we just started working with you as well, so we're excited about that, Nathan. We will have to do this again. I'm going to go ahead and post that Business Insider link to the article about you as a comment to this live stream as well.
Sure.
So
Hey, and real quick,
yeah.
the listeners probably know the LaunchUX is a sponsor of the IT Business Owners Group, and we do have our program MSP Web Pro, which is an affiliate program where basically we're in your back pocket. So if you need website advice, if you want to sell SEO to your customers, if you want to sell websites to your customers, we provide commissions for that as part of our affiliate program. And we do white label as well. We have over 100 partners, paid out over six figures in commissions last year. So the program's
Wow.
working really well. I would imagine if we didn't have a satisfied partner, you would be well aware of that in the group. So, things are going very well for that. But also, I've partnered with MSPs that do web development, and they'll subcontract us if they need a specialty plugin designed or they need some sort of special functionality that's just out of their wheelhouse. And that's what we're here for. We're just looking to help the MSPs for whatever they want to use us for whenever they're ready to use us.
Sounds good, Nathan. Well, you took my ending from me. I was going to say,
I'm
what's the
sorry.
best way that a MSP or IT service provider could get in touch with you to start working with you? But I think you just
If
said it.
so they
So,
could visit launchux.com, but I
all
really
right,
recommend anybody listening to this specific video that is an MSP to go to mspwebpro.com. Take a look at what we can offer in MSP. Request a meeting with myself or Brandon, our VP. Look at the program. It might fit really well into what you're currently doing. It has for about 100 other people in your space. So
awesome.
we just want to
And
keep doing what we're doing well.
make sure you tell the team when you call LaunchUX to get signed up. Make sure you tell them that you heard about them on IT Business Owners Group or this live stream with Scott. So
I appreciate
awesome.
that. Thank you,
Nathan, thank
Scott.
you so much. I appreciate it, and I will talk with you later. Have a great
Sounds
rest of your
good,
day.
buddy.
We'll see you, man. Bye bye.